The sound of clinking glasses and light laughter fills the room as my family gathers around the dinner table, celebrating Dean's latest success. It's almost surreal how perfect the scene is. The golden boy returns home victorious, and everyone is basking in his glow. Dad's practically beaming with pride, raising his glass high and leading yet another toast to Dean's name. Even my best friend, Jordan, got an invite and sat across from me, laughing a bit too hard at Dean's stories as if he hadn't heard them all before. And me? I'm just here in the shadows, clapping along with the rest. I try to keep my head down, focusing on the wine swirling in my glass as the speeches continue. Every time someone mentions Dean's latest project or his prestigious network, there's this pang, this dull throb that I can't shake. It's been like this forever. My accomplishments are treated like warm ups, stepping stones, things to be proud of for the moment until Dean does something bigger. I thought I'd be numb to it by now, but tonight, it's worse. Maybe it's because I know how hard I've worked to get to where I am, but that doesn't seem to matter to anyone here. Mom finally shifts her gaze in my direction. Ezra, isn't it wonderful how Dean's been able to bring our family so much pride? He's really made a name for himself in the industry. Maybe you could help him, get a little more exposure. There it is. The familiar sting of being in the background, the helpful sibling, the stepping stone for Dean's greatness. I bite back a sharp retort, forcing a smile instead. Sure, Mom. If Dean ever needs my help, he knows where to find me. The words are practically rehearsed at this point, an automatic response, even though inside, I'm feeling anything but agreeable. Dean flashes me that perfect, charismatic smile that's charmed everyone in the room. Easy, maybe you actually could give me a hand on this one. I mean, you've always been good with the behind the scenes stuff. He says it so casually, as if it's a compliment, but I can feel the subtle jab. It's always the same, him on the stage, me in the shadows. I want to scream, tell him I'm done being his invisible support system, but I just sit there, taking another long sip of wine. Jordan leans in, laughing a little too loud as he elbows me. Come on, easy, it's family. What's one more favor, right? His words hit a nerve, and I force myself to smile, ignoring the building resentment. I glance around the table, taking in the expectant faces, each one hoping I'll fall in line and play the role I've always played, the reliable one, the dutiful sibling. There's no room for me to say no, not here, not with all these eyes watching, waiting. Right? I murmur, feeling the weight of everyone's expectations like a physical weight pressing down on me. I'll think about it, Dean. He grins, raising his glass once more. Knew I could count on you, Ezra. The evening drags on with more toasts, more laughs, and more praise for Dean. I sit quietly, watching from the sidelines, invisible and unseen. When the evening finally winds down, I make my escape to the balcony, needing some air, some space to breathe. The cool night breeze feels like a balm against my skin, but it does little to ease the ache in my chest. The city lights stretch out before me, each one a reminder of the life I've built, far from this suffocating family dynamic, yet here I am, dragged back into it with one family dinner. Footsteps echo behind me, and I turn to see Dean stepping out, hands shoved in his pockets, that easy smile still plastered on his face. Easy, come on. Don't take things so personally. I know you think I don't appreciate you, but I do. You're valuable in your own way. Valuable. I repeat, the bitterness creeping into my voice before I can stop it. Like some kind of asset? A backup plan? He shrugs, leaning against the railing. If you want to put it that way. But, you could be doing a lot more with yourself if you just loosened up a bit. I'm trying to help you, give you a shot at being part of something bigger. My fingers clench around the railing, and for a moment, I imagine the satisfaction of just walking away, of telling him exactly what I think of his help. But I know it won't change anything. Not really. Dean, I don't need your help, and I don't need to be part of your world to find value in my life. I've worked hard to get where I am. He chuckles, the sound grating on my nerves. Worked hard? Look, easy. I'm not saying you're not good at what you do, but you're not me. People don't look at you and see potential. You've got skills, sure, but you lack vision. That's why mom and dad rely on me. Why they think you're the only one worth investing in. The words slip out before I can stop them. And there it is, the truth laid bare between us. Dean's smile fades, replaced by a look of mild annoyance. They invest in me because I bring results, Ezra. Don't make this a pity party just because you're too sensitive to see how things work. I laugh bitterly, pushing off the railing. You know what? Keep your results, keep their approval. I'm done playing your sidekick. With that, I turn and head back inside, ignoring his calls after me. I grab my jacket, say a quick goodbye to my parents, who barely look up from whatever Dean is saying to them, and leave. The moment I step out of that house, it feels like I can finally breathe again, as if a weight's been lifted. I know it won't last, that the guilt will settle in soon enough. But right now, all I feel is relief. A week later, I'm standing in my new office, the one I earned with my own hard work, in a city far enough from my family that their influence feels like a distant memory. My life here is different, quieter, less tense, and free from the expectations that used to hang over my head. I've got a job I love, friends who see me for who I am, and Sam, who's been my rock, my confidant, and my safe haven. For the first time, I feel like I'm building something real, something that's mine. It's peaceful, until Dean calls. I stare at his name flashing on my phone, that old familiar dread creeping in. Against my better judgment, I answer. Ezra. His voice is all enthusiasm. Too bright. Too familiar. How's the big city treating you? I clench my jaw, keeping my tone polite. It's good, Dean. Busy. What's up? Listen, I won't beat around the bush. I need your help. Of course. I can already feel the headache forming. Dean, I told you I'm done with. I know, he interrupts, sounding almost desperate. But this is different. I'm in a bit of a bind, and you're the only one I can trust with this. Trust. The word feels hollow coming from him. You need to find someone else, Dean. I've got my own work to handle. He sighs, a long-suffering sound that sends my irritation spiking. Easy, come on. It's family. You can't just turn your back on us. I want to laugh at the irony of it, but I don't. I think I've done enough for the family, I say, my voice firm. I'm not dropping everything again just because you've hit a rough patch. He's quiet for a moment, then says, You know, Mom and Dad were right. You've changed. I barely recognize you. Maybe that's because, for once, I'm actually living my life. I snap back. Not yours. He mutters something under his breath, and then the line goes dead. I stare at the phone, feeling a mixture of anger and relief. I told him no. For the first time, I didn't fold, didn't let the guilt or pressure win. It feels good, but I know it's not over. People like Dean don't take no easily, and my parents, they'll be calling soon enough, with their own arguments, their own attempts to pull me back. Still, I can't help but feel a strange sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I can keep this distance, keep this life I've built. For now, I savor that feeling, bracing myself for whatever comes next. The weeks pass in a blur of meetings, deadlines, and late nights. Work has a way of consuming everything around it, which, in my case, is perfect. I dive into my projects, spending extra hours in the office, barely leaving time for anything else. Every time I look around at the life I've built, I feel a strange mixture of pride and relief. I'm doing this on my own terms, creating something that's mine, untouched by my family's endless expectations. Yet, despite my best efforts to move forward, the calls don't stop. Mom calls me almost daily, each voicemail sounding more irritated than the last. She throws out familiar phrases about family loyalty and how Dean needs support right now. I don't respond, but each message leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, stirring up all the old resentment I thought I'd buried. For once, though, I'm determined to stand my ground, to keep my life separate from the mess they want to drag me back into. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I arrive home to find Sam waiting for me with dinner on the table. He grins as I drop my bag and kick off my shoes, clearly amused by the exhaustion written across my face. Rough day, he asks, passing me a glass of wine as I sit down. You have no idea. I sigh, taking a sip. The warmth of the wine eases the tension in my shoulders, and I smile at him, grateful for this small pocket of peace. But it's worth it. I'm actually excited about this project I'm working on. Sam's eyes light up, and he reaches across the table to take my hand. That's what I love about you, Easy. You never do anything halfway. I chuckle, squeezing his hand. Well, when you spend your life as someone else's shadow, you learn to appreciate the things you can finally call your own. He nods, a sympathetic look crossing his face. He knows enough about my family to understand the weight of that statement, and for a moment, we sit in comfortable silence, just enjoying each other's company. But then, almost as if the universe is determined to ruin my peace, my phone buzzes on the table. I glance at it, my heart sinking as I see Mom flashing across the screen. I ignore it, turning my attention back to Sam. But the buzzing doesn't stop. Another call, then another voicemail, and then a text. Finally, my patience snaps, and I pick up the phone, opening the message. Ezra, we need to talk. Your brother is going through something serious, and he needs his family. Ignoring us won't make the problem go away. I feel my jaw tighten, the familiar frustration bubbling up. Of course, it's all about Dean. It always is. I turn off my phone, throwing it onto the couch, but Sam gives me a concerned look. Everything okay? He asks gently. I shake my head, forcing a smile. It's just my mom. She's still trying to pull me back into their issues with Dean. But I'm done with it, Sam. I can't keep putting my life on hold for them. Sam nods, his hand resting on mine. You don't have to, Easy. You've worked too hard to get where you are. Don't let them drag you down. His words are exactly what I need to hear, and I feel a wave of gratitude wash over me. But in the back of my mind, there's still that nagging feeling, that part of me that's been conditioned to feel guilty for putting myself first. I push it aside, focusing on the life I'm building here, the life I refuse to let them ruin. A few weeks later, I get a promotion. It's everything I've been working toward, a recognition of my skills, my dedication, my hard work. My boss, a hard-to-impress woman with a knack for seeing potential, pulls me aside after the announcement to tell me how much she values my work, and for the first time, I feel seen. Really seen. That night, Sam and I celebrate with friends, laughter and cheers filling the small bar as we toast to my success. It's a good night, the kind that makes everything worth it, and for a while, I forget about the tension with my family. I'm surrounded by people who genuinely support me, who see me for who I am, and in that moment, it feels like enough. But the next morning, I wake up to find another message from Dean. This one is different, though. It's short, direct, and there's a strange tone to it, something almost desperate. Ezra, please. I really need your help. Call me. I stare at the message, a part of me tempted to delete it, to ignore it like all the others. But there's something in his words, a hint of vulnerability that catches me off guard. Against my better judgment, I find myself dialing his number, my heart pounding as the phone rings. Dean answers almost immediately. Ezra, thank you for calling back. His voice is strained, nothing like the confident, cocky tone I'm used to. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for him. What's going on, Dean? There's a pause, and then he sighs heavily. I messed up, easy. I, I've got some people on my back, people who, well, let's just say they're not exactly forgiving. I need money. Hust. Of course. It's always money. I feel the sympathy drain out of me, replaced by the familiar anger and disappointment. Dean, I'm not your bank. I worked for every dollar I have, and I'm not about to throw it away on whatever mess you've gotten yourself into. I know, he says quickly, his voice pleading. But this is serious, Easy. If I don't pay them back, things could get ugly. You're the only person I can count on right now. His words sting, and I can't help but think back to all the times I was left to fend for myself while everyone else rushed to help Dean. But I hold my ground. I'm sorry, Dean. I can't help you. There's a long silence, and then he laughs bitterly. I knew it. You've changed, Ezra. You think you're better than us now, don't you? Maybe I have changed, I snap back. Maybe I'm finally tired of sacrificing everything for you. He mutters something under his breath, and then the line goes dead. I stare at my phone, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. I said no again, and this time I don't feel guilty. I feel free, but that freedom is short lived. The next day, I walk into my office to find people whispering, casting strange looks my way. My boss calls me in, her expression unreadable, and I sit down, feeling the unease settle in my stomach. Ezra, she begins, folding her hands on the desk, we've been hearing some unsettling things. Rumors about your conduct, your reliability. People are saying that you've been difficult to work with. My heart sinks. That's not true. I don't know where these rumors are coming from. She studies me, her eyes narrowing. I want to believe you, Ezra. You've always been one of my best, but this kind of talk, it's not good for your reputation or for the company's. I leave her office feeling like the ground has been ripped out from under me. I know exactly where these rumors came from. Dean. He's getting back at me, using whatever means he can to drag me down, to make me feel as small and insignificant as he's always seen me. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut, and for a moment, I feel completely powerless. When I get home that evening, Sam can see the stress etched across my face, and he pulls me into a hug, whispering words of comfort. But I can barely focus, my mind racing as I think about everything I've worked for, all at risk because of Dean's pettiness. What are you going to do? Sam asks gently, his hand rubbing soothing circles on my back. I shake my head, trying to steady my breathing. I don't know. I feel like I'm trapped, like no matter how far I run, they'll always find a way to pull me back. He kisses my forehead, his arms wrapping tightly around me. You're stronger than this, Ezra. They can't take away what you've built. Not unless you let them. His words give me a flicker of hope, and I cling to it, determined not to let Dean ruin what I've worked so hard for. But the fight isn't over. I know that much. Dean isn't going to let this go, and neither will my parents. They'll keep pushing, keep testing my resolve until I break, or until I find a way to finally, truly free myself from them. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, I realize that the only way to protect my life, my happiness, is to face them head on, to finally draw a line they can't cross, even if it means losing them for good. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but one thing is clear. I can't keep running. The days that follow are like navigating a minefield, with whispers and sideways glances haunting me wherever I go. I can feel my hard-earned reputation slipping through my fingers, unraveling piece by piece, all thanks to Dean. Despite everything, part of me still can't believe he'd go this far. But the more I think about it, the more I realize I should have seen this coming. He's always had a way of turning things in his favor, manipulating people with that charm of his, all while leaving destruction in his wake. My boss, Claire, has become distant, her once friendly smile replaced with a wary glance. Every project I take on feels like I'm under a microscope, with every little mistake magnified. And it's not just her. My colleagues, people I used to laugh with and confide in, have started keeping their distance, whispering when they think I'm not listening. The tension is suffocating, and I know that Dean's fingerprints are all over it. One afternoon, as I'm leaving the office, my phone buzzes with a message from Jordan, my supposed best friend, though even that title feels shaky right now. We haven't talked much since I distanced myself from my family, and I'd hoped he'd understand why I needed that space. But ever since he's been getting closer to Dean, I can feel a wedge growing between us. Hey, can we talk? I feel like there's a lot going on that we need to clear up. I stare at the message, anger boiling inside me. He has no idea what's happening, no idea how much damage Dean is causing. But if there's any chance to set things right, maybe it's worth a shot. Against my better judgment, I text back. Feeney. Let's meet at Joe's Cafe after work. When I arrive at Joe's, Jordan's already there, sipping his coffee and scrolling through his phone. He looks up as I walk over, a tight smile on his face, and for a moment, it almost feels normal, like old times. But the tension between us is palpable, and I can tell he senses it too. Hey, Ezra, he says, his tone cautious. Thanks for meeting me. I nod, sitting across from him. What's going on, Jordan? He clears his throat, looking down at his coffee. Look, I know things have been tense lately. I know you and Dean don't see eye to eye, but he's been going through a rough time, and are you serious? I cut him off, disbelief lacing my words. Jordan, do you even know what he's been doing? The rumors at work, the way he's been trying to ruin everything I've built here? He's not just going through a rough time. He's deliberately sabotaging me. Jordan's face falls, and he looks genuinely taken aback. Sabotaging you? Ezra, that doesn't sound like him. Dean's got his issues, sure, but I can't imagine he'd go that far. I laugh bitterly, shaking my head. Of course you can't. He's got you wrapped around his finger, just like everyone else. You think he's this charming, misunderstood guy, but that's just his act. You don't see the side of him I do, the manipulative, self-serving side. Jordan shifts uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. Maybe you're reading too much into it. I mean, he did mention that you've been different lately. Cold, even. Maybe he just feels like you're pushing him away. Pushing him away? I echo, incredulous. Jordan, I had to distance myself because he's toxic. I needed space to build my own life without constantly being dragged down by his problems. He sighs, looking at me with something that almost resembles pity. Ezra, I get that family can be complicated, but maybe you're being a little harsh. Dean's your brother. Maybe he just needs your support right now. The words sting more than they should. So that's it? You're taking his side? Jordan shifts uncomfortably again, and it's in that moment I realize just how deep Dean's influence goes. Even my best friend is more willing to believe Dean's version of events than mine. The betrayal is like a punch to the gut, and I can feel the last thread of patience snapping. Fine, I say, my voice barely a whisper. If that's how you see it, then maybe you don't know me at all. Jordan's face falls, and for a moment, he looks genuinely hurt. But he doesn't argue, doesn't try to defend himself. He just sits there, silent, as I get up and leave without another word. Days turn into weeks, and the rumors at work don't die down. If anything, they get worse. Every project I take on feels like it's under a magnifying glass, with every little mistake amplified and discussed in hushed tones. I try to brush it off, to focus on the work, but it's impossible to ignore. Even my boss, Claire, has started questioning me on things that were never an issue before. I'm constantly on edge, bracing myself for the next wave of scrutiny, the next thinly veiled comment about my commitment to the company. The breaking point comes one Friday afternoon. I'm called into Claire's office, and as I step inside, I can see the look in her eyes, cold, calculating, as if she's already made up her mind. Ezra, we need to talk about your recent performance, she begins, folding her hands neatly on the desk. There have been concerns that you're not as committed to the team as we originally thought. I feel my throat tighten, a mix of anger and desperation clawing at my chest. Claire, I don't know where these rumors are coming from, but they're not true. I've put everything into my work here. She studies me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. That may be, but perception is everything, Ezra. And right now, the perception is that you're distracted. I'm going to have to take you off the lead for the upcoming project. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and I can feel the weight of everything crashing down on me. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, all slipping away because of Dean's lies, his manipulation. I nod numbly, forcing myself to keep my composure, but inside, I'm seething with rage, helplessness, and a profound sense of betrayal. When I leave the office, my hands are shaking. I head straight home, barely registering the drive, the streets blurring as the anger and frustration boil over. By the time I get to my apartment, I feel like I'm about to explode. Sam's there, waiting for me as always, his face filled with concern the moment he sees me. Ezra, what happened? I can barely get the words out, my voice choked with emotion. They took me off the project, Sam. They're buying into the rumors. All of it. Everything I've worked for, it's all falling apart because of him. He pulls me into his arms, holding me tightly as I let out all the anger and pain I've been holding back. It feels like I'm drowning, like I'm being pulled under by a force I can't fight, no matter how hard I try. We'll figure it out, he whispers, his voice steady and reassuring. We'll find a way to fix this. But even as he says it, I can feel the doubt creeping in, the fear that maybe there's nothing left to fix. That maybe, no matter how hard I fight, Dean will always find a way to ruin everything I touch. A few days later, I receive an email from my parents. The subject line alone makes my stomach turn. Family discussion. I open it, skimming through the familiar lines about loyalty, support, and doing what's best for everyone. They talk about Dean's recent struggles and how the family needs to pull together to help him through this difficult time. There's not a single word about me, not a single acknowledgement of everything I've been dealing with because of Dean's actions. It's as if I'm invisible, my pain and sacrifices erased in favor of Dean's endless needs. I delete the email without replying, the bitterness settling deep in my chest. I don't know why I keep hoping for things to be different, why I keep expecting them to see me, to recognize the damage Dean has done. But every time, I'm met with the same indifference, the same unwavering support for the one person who's done nothing but tear me down. That evening, as I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, a thought creeps into my mind, a thought I've been avoiding for years. Maybe it's time to cut them off for good, to walk away from the family. That's never truly seen me, never valued me for who I am. The idea terrifies me, but it also fills me with a strange sense of peace, a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, I can finally be free. The next morning, I wake up with a sense of clarity I haven't felt in years. I know what I have to do. For the first time, I feel like I'm standing at the edge of something new, something I can shape and control. It won't be easy, but I'm done letting them control my life. I'm ready to fight back, to protect the life I've built, even if it means losing the family that's never truly been there for me. With that thought in mind, I get up, ready to face whatever comes next. Because this time, I won't let them win. I step into the office that Monday morning with a newfound determination simmering inside me, but the reality of the situation quickly chips away at my resolve. The whispers, the sideways glances, they're all still there, lingering like a cloud that follows me from meeting to meeting. I've been demoted from the project lead, and every task now feels like it's a test, a trial to see how I'll handle being pushed aside. It's humiliating. The people who once looked up to me now look through me, as if I'm already a lost cause. By lunchtime, I can barely stomach the thought of sitting in the break room, surrounded by colleagues who'll only watch me with pity or suspicion. So I slip out, choosing instead to take a walk around the block, hoping the fresh air might clear my head. I'm pacing the sidewalk, replaying everything in my mind, the rumors, Dean's smug smirk the last time we talked, the way my own family has chosen him over and over again. When my phone buzzes, it's my mother. I let it ring a few times, my thumb hovering over the decline button, but something in me stops. Maybe it's the tiny sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, she's finally realized the damage Dean has caused. That maybe this time it's different. I answer, keeping my tone flat. Hello. Ezra, she begins, her voice soft, almost hesitant. We need to talk. Of course. I sigh, my patience already wearing thin. What is it, Mom? She pauses, and I can almost hear the gears turning in her head, crafting the words that'll make this all seem reasonable, justifiable. It's about Dean, she says finally. He's going through a very difficult time, and I know you've been distant lately, but he needs his family. He needs you. I feel my jaw tighten, the frustration bubbling up. Mom, I've been through a lot because of him. He's sabotaging my career, spreading lies about me. And you're asking me to help him? Oh, Ezra, she sighs, as if I'm a child who just doesn't understand. He's struggling. He made some mistakes, yes, but he's still your brother. We're family. That means something. Family means something? I can't keep the bitterness out of my voice. Does it mean anything when it's destroying me, Mom? When my entire life is being turned upside down because of him? She's silent for a moment, and then she says with a soft sigh, sometimes, Ezra, we have to make sacrifices for the people we love. I feel a coldness settle over me, an emptiness that's been growing for years, filling every space they've carved out with their endless demands and expectations. Sacrifices. I repeat. I've made nothing but sacrifices, Mom. And where has it gotten me? Ezra, please don't be dramatic, she replies, a hint of exasperation in her voice. I just need you to come home, to sit down with Dean and work this out. We're a family. We can get through this if we stick together. Stick together. The words echo in my mind, hollow and meaningless. I take a deep breath, fighting to keep my voice steady. Mom, if you can't see what this is doing to me, then maybe we don't have as much in common as you think. Ezra. No. I interrupt, my voice firm. I'm done, Mom. I'm done sacrificing my life for Dean. I'm done with all of this. I hang up, my hands trembling as I shove my phone back into my pocket. I feel the weight of what I've just done settling on my shoulders, the finality of it sinking in. For so long, I've played the role they wanted me to play, but that's over now. I won't let them drag me down any further. When I get home that evening, Sam is waiting for me, a concerned look on his face as I step inside. He takes one look at me, his eyes searching mine, and I know he can sense the turmoil, the weight of everything that's happened. Ezra, he says softly, pulling me into his arms. Are you okay? I nod, leaning into him, feeling the comfort of his embrace. I I told her I'm done, Sam. I told my mother that I can't do this anymore. He strokes my back gently, his voice steady and reassuring. You did the right thing. You can't keep sacrificing yourself for them. They don't deserve it. A lump forms in my throat, and I feel the weight of all the years I spent trying to earn their approval, trying to be enough for family that never really saw me. It's hard, cutting them off. It feels like I'm losing a part of myself. You're not losing anything, Sam says, pulling back to look into my eyes. You're freeing yourself. You're making room for the life you deserve, the one they've tried to take from you. I nod, feeling a strange mixture of relief and sadness. He's right, I know he is. But there's still a part of me that mourns the family I'll never have, the one I spent so long hoping for. A few days later, I walk into the office, prepared to continue rebuilding my reputation, only to find Claire waiting by my desk, a strange look on her face. Ezra, can we talk? My heart sinks, and I follow her to her office, bracing myself for whatever new blow she's about to deliver. We sit down, and she folds her hands on the desk, looking at me with a mixture of pity and resolve. Ezra, I've been doing some digging trying to get to the bottom of these rumors. And I have to tell you, it doesn't look good. I swallow, feeling the familiar weight of dread settle in my stomach. Claire, I swear, none of it is true. I don't know who's been saying these things, but I haven't done anything to deserve this. She sighs, glancing down at her hands. I want to believe you, I really do. But with everything that's come to light, I don't have a choice. I have to let you go. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and for a moment, I can't breathe. Everything I've worked for, everything I've sacrificed, gone in an instant, all because of Dean's lies, his endless manipulation. Please, Claire, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. You know me. You know I'd never do anything to jeopardize my career here. She looks at me, her expression softening just a little. I know, Ezra, but sometimes perception is more powerful than the truth. I leave the office that day with my things packed up in a small box, the weight of defeat pressing down on me with every step. It's over. Everything I've built, everything I've fought for, destroyed because of my own family. When I get home, Sam is waiting, his face filled with worry as he takes in the box in my hands, the empty look in my eyes. They fired me, Sam, I say, my voice hollow. They actually fired me. He pulls me into his arms, holding me tightly as I let the weight of it all finally sink in. The anger, the betrayal, the overwhelming sense of loss. All of it crashes over me like a tidal wave, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel it. The grief, the bitterness, the hopelessness. It all pours out, raw and unfiltered, and Sam holds me through it, whispering words of comfort, of reassurance, but none of it can fill the void that's opened up inside me. That night, as I lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, a single thought takes shape in my mind. If Dean thinks he's won, if he thinks he can just keep taking and taking until there's nothing left, he's wrong. I've sacrificed too much, lost too much because of him, and I'm done letting him ruin my life. Tomorrow, I'll start over. I don't know how, but I'll rebuild, piece by piece, brick by brick. I'll prove to everyone, my family, my former colleagues, and most of all, to myself, that I'm stronger than this, stronger than him. Because this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of the life I'm finally going to claim as my own. The weeks after losing my job are some of the hardest I've ever faced. I wake up every morning with a knot of anxiety in my stomach, the weight of everything Dean has done pressing down on me. My entire career, the life I built from scratch, lies in ruins, and every day feels like a battle just to keep moving forward. Sam tries to be supportive, encouraging me to take time for myself, to figure out what I want to do next, but I can see the worry in his eyes. We both know that rebuilding won't be easy, not after the damage Dean has done. But I'm determined. If nothing else, this entire mess has shown me that I can't keep relying on the approval or understanding of people who never truly had my back. For once, I'm building something solely for myself, and I'm not letting Dean or anyone else take it away from me again. I start small, reaching out to a few connections I'd made in the industry, people I trust to see through the rumors and lies that have stained my reputation. It's awkward, painful even, having to explain the situation over and over, but I tell myself it's necessary. I need people to know the truth, even if it means swallowing my pride and admitting just how badly things have spiraled. Some respond with sympathy, others with a cautious distance, but there are a few who offer me hope. A freelance project here, a consultation there. It's not much, but it's a start, and I cling to it like a lifeline. One afternoon, as I'm sifting through job postings and trying to get my resume back in shape, I get a text from an old colleague, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Hey, Ezra. I heard about what happened. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. If you ever need a recommendation or someone to vouch for you, let me know. It's a small gesture, but it hits me harder than I expect. For so long, I felt alone, isolated by the lies and manipulation that Dean has woven around me. But here, in this tiny message, is a reminder that there are still people who believe in me. I take a deep breath, feeling a weight lift, if only slightly. Maybe I'm not as alone as I thought. Over the next few weeks, I throw myself into these small projects, taking on freelance work that keeps me busy and helps me regain a sense of purpose. It's not the same as having a steady job, but it's something I can control, something that reminds me of my own skills and worth. And slowly, bit by bit, I start to feel like myself again, like the person I was before Dean and my family turned my life upside down. One evening, as Sam and I are having dinner, he brings up something that's been weighing on his mind. Ezra, have you thought about, taking legal action against Dean? He asks, his tone careful. I mean, everything he's done, it's not right. There has to be some way to hold him accountable. I pause, considering his words. The thought of confronting Dean legally, of finally standing up to him in a way that he can't ignore, is tempting. But the idea also fills me with dread. Dean has always been good at twisting things in his favor, and the thought of dragging my family through a legal battle feels like a line I'm not sure I'm ready to cross. I don't know, Sam. I say finally, setting down my fork. Part of me wants to, but I'm just so tired. I feel like I've been fighting him my whole life, and I don't know if I have it in me to keep going down that road. He reaches across the table, taking my hand in his. I get it, but just remember, you deserve justice, Ezra. You deserve to have your side heard. His words linger in my mind long after dinner, echoing in the quiet spaces of my thoughts. Justice. It's something I've craved for so long, a chance to finally break free from the shadows Dean has cast over my life. And maybe Sam's right. Maybe it's time to take a stand, to show Dean and my family that I won't be his victim anymore. The next morning, I start researching my options. I speak with a few legal advisors, explaining the situation and laying out everything that's happened, the rumors, the sabotage, the way Dean has manipulated my family and career for his own gain. Some of them are sympathetic, others skeptical, but I can see a clear path forming, a way to finally hold Dean accountable for the damage he's caused. But as I dig deeper, I also begin to realize just how complicated this fight will be. Dean has connections, influence, and a knack for twisting things to suit his narrative. Going up against him won't be easy, and I know that if I pursue this, it could mean severing ties with my family completely. The thought is painful, a final goodbye to a part of my life I've held onto for far too long, but I know it's the only way to truly move forward. A few days later, I meet with my lawyer, a sharp, no nonsense woman named Linda, who listens intently as I recount everything. She nods thoughtfully, taking notes, her expression unreadable. Ezra, you have a strong case, she says finally. But I won't lie to you. This is going to be a tough fight. Your brother's influence, his connections, it's going to get messy. I nod, my resolve hardening. I'm ready. I'm tired of living in his shadow. I just want my life back. She studies me for a moment, then smiles. Good. Let's get to work. As the weeks go by, I feel a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. Fear because I know what's coming, the backlash, the anger from my family, the inevitable fallout. And exhilaration because for the first time, I'm taking control. I'm standing up for myself in a way I never have before, and it feels like a weight lifting off my shoulders, a step toward freedom I never thought possible. The first time I see Dean after filing the suit, he's furious. He storms into my apartment unannounced, his face twisted with anger, his voice sharp and cutting. Are you insane? He demands, slamming the door behind him. You really think you can win this? You're going to destroy this family, Ezra. I stand my ground, my heart pounding but my voice steady. No, Dean. You destroyed this family the moment you decided my life was disposable. I'm done playing your game. He laughs, a bitter, mocking sound. You think you're some kind of hero, don't you? But you're just being selfish, Ezra. All you care about is yourself. For a moment, his words sting, hitting on that old, familiar wound. But then I remember everything he's put me through, every sacrifice I made, every piece of myself I lost trying to earn his approval, and I feel nothing but clarity. No, Dean, I say, my voice calm. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing me. And if that makes me selfish, so be it. He glares at me, his fists clenched, but he doesn't say another word. He just storms out, leaving a trail of anger and bitterness in his wake. And as the door slams shut behind him, I feel a strange sense of relief. I know this fight is far from over, but I also know that I'm finally free of his grip, free to carve my own path. In the weeks that follow, the lawsuit unfolds like a slow-motion train wreck, each day bringing new revelations, new battles. My parents are furious, their calls filled with accusations and pleas for me to come to my senses. But I stand firm, refusing to let their guilt trip sway me. I know this is the right path, the only way to reclaim my life, and I won't let them drag me back into the shadows. The process is grueling, draining in ways I never imagined. But through it all, I find strength in the people who truly support me. Sam, my few loyal friends, even some colleagues who reach out with words of encouragement. These connections, these bonds that I've built on my own terms, become my anchor, grounding me in the storm that swirls around me. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the case comes to a close. The ruling is in my favor, a hard-won victory that feels both surreal and liberating. Dean's influence is diminished, his lies exposed, and for the first time, I feel like I'm standing in the light, unburdened by the weight of his shadow. It's over. The fight, the pain, the endless cycle of sacrifice, it's all over. I step out of the courthouse, the sun warm on my face, and I take a deep breath, feeling a peace I've never known. Sam is waiting for me, his smile wide and proud, and he pulls me into his arms, whispering words of congratulations, of love and support. As we walk away together, I know that this is the beginning of something new, a life built on my own terms, free from the chains of my past. I've lost so much, But I've gained something even greater, a sense of self, of worth, that no one can take from me. For the first time, I'm truly free. And as I look forward to the future, I know that whatever comes next, I'm ready to face it with a strength and resilience that's all my own. The days after the trial feel surreal, like I'm drifting through a life that no longer fits the version of me I used to be. Winning wasn't the grand triumph I'd imagined. There was no flood of relief, no overwhelming sense of victory. There was only the quiet, a blank canvas where the ache of my past had once been. It's freeing, but it's strange, and I don't quite know what to do with it. Sam has been my rock through all of it, letting me settle into this new phase without judgment or pressure. He gives me the space I need to process, to mourn what I lost in the battle, while reminding me of the possibilities I've opened up for myself. We spend quiet mornings together, sipping coffee and talking about everything and nothing, our lives stretching before us like an open road. For the first time, I'm not weighed down by someone else's expectations. I'm just me, but it's not long before the inevitable happens. My mother calls. I haven't heard from her since the lawsuit ended, and the sound of her voice on the other end of the line feels like a shock to the system, pulling me back to a place I thought I'd left behind. Ezra, she says, her tone brittle, as if the word itself is painful to speak. I think we need to talk. There's a part of me that wants to hang up right then and there, to let the silence between us stretch on forever. But something else, a fragment of the person I used to be, compels me to stay on the line. Maybe I'm curious, or maybe I just need to close this chapter once and for all. What do you want to talk about, Mom? My voice is steady, calm. I'm not the person she used to manipulate. Not anymore. She pauses, and I can almost picture her sitting at the kitchen table, her hands folded, searching for the right words to reel me back in. Your father and I, we've been thinking about everything that's happened, about how things got to this point. I wait, letting the silence stretch, refusing to make this easy for her. You know we only wanted what was best for you, she says finally, her voice soft, almost pleading. We tried our best to support you and Dean in our own way. A bitter laugh escapes me before I can stop it. Your own way, I repeat, the words tasting sharp on my tongue. Is that what you call letting Dean sabotage my life? Over and over, while you stood by and did nothing? Ezra, please, she whispers, her voice wavering. We didn't see it that way. We thought you'd be strong enough to handle it, that you didn't need as much from us. The admission stings, but it's not surprising. They always saw me as the strong one, the one who could take the hits, who could bend without breaking. I was their safety net, the steady hand they could rely on while Dean chased his dreams, stumbled, and demanded more. And I let them. For years, I let them. Maybe that's your problem, Mom. I say quietly. You always saw me as something you could use, someone who would always be there no matter how much you took. But I'm done being that person. I have to be done. There's a long silence, and I wonder if she's finally heard me, if the truth has finally broken through the walls they've built around their understanding of who I am. I'm sorry, Ezra, she says eventually, her voice so small, so fragile, that for a moment I almost believe it. I'm sorry we weren't there for you the way we should have been. The apology is something I've craved for years, but hearing it now, it feels hollow, too little, too late. I appreciate that, Mom, I say, my voice surprisingly gentle. But it doesn't change anything. I can't go back to the way things were. I feel a strange sense of peace as I say the words, as if I'm finally releasing something I've held onto for far too long. There's no anger, no bitterness. Just the quiet acceptance that some things can't be fixed, that some bonds aren't worth saving. Will you ever come home? She asks, her voice barely a whisper. I close my eyes, letting the question settle over me. Home. It's a word that used to mean so much, a place I once longed to return to, even after everything. But now I realize I've built my own version of home, one that's safe, one that's mine. I don't know, Mom, I say softly. But if I do, it'll be on my terms, not yours, not Dean's. She doesn't argue, doesn't try to convince me otherwise. Maybe in her own way, she understands. Or maybe she's just too tired to fight anymore. When I hang up, I feel lighter, as if a weight I didn't even know I was carrying has been lifted. I sit there for a while, the quiet of the apartment surrounding me, and for the first time in a long time, I feel free. The weeks pass, and life slowly begins to take shape in a new way. I pick up more freelance work, building a portfolio that's entirely my own, untethered from the expectations or demands of anyone else. The projects are challenging, exciting, each one a reminder of the skills and passion that I nearly lost in the struggle with my family. I'm reclaiming myself, piece by piece, rebuilding a version of me that's stronger, more resilient. One evening, as Sam and I are walking through the park, he turns to me, a small smile on his face. "You know, I'm proud of you," he says, his voice filled with warmth. "You've come so far." I smile back, squeezing his hand. "I think I'm finally starting to see it too." He chuckles, nudging me playfully. "So, what's next for the new and improved Ezra? Any big plans?" I take a deep breath, letting the possibilities wash over me. For so long, my life was defined by Dean, by my family, by the constant need to prove myself. But now, for the first time, the future feels open, a canvas waiting for me to paint my own story. I don't know, I admit, smiling as I look up at the stars. But whatever it is, it's going to be mine. And that's enough. We walk on in comfortable silence, the night air cool against my skin, and I feel a peace settling over me, a quiet confidence that's been missing for so long. I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. I don't need their approval, their validation. I have everything I need, right here, in the life I've built for myself. As we make our way back to the apartment, I glance at Sam, my heart swelling with gratitude. He's been my anchor through all of this, my constant, unwavering support. I don't know how I would have gotten through it without him, and I'm more grateful than words can express. When we get home, I sit down at my desk, opening my laptop and staring at the blank screen before me. I take a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the keys, and then I begin to type. It's not for work, not for anyone else. It's just for me, a story I've carried inside me for too long, waiting to be told. As the words flow, I feel a sense of release, a catharsis that I hadn't anticipated. I'm letting go of the past, of the hurt, of everything that's weighed me down. I'm reclaiming my voice, my story, in a way that no one can take away from me. Hours pass, and by the time I finally stop, the first draft is finished. It's raw, imperfect, but it's mine. I close the laptop, a sense of accomplishment settling over me. I don't know where this journey will take me, but I know that whatever happens, I'll face it on my own terms. The next morning, as the sun rises over the city, I sit by the window, a cup of coffee warming my hands, and I watch the world come alive. I feel a quiet joy, a contentment that's hard to put into words. For so long, I chased a version of happiness that was defined by others, by my family, by the need to be enough for them. But now I realize happiness isn't something I need to chase. It's something I can create, moment by moment, day by day, in the life I've chosen for myself. As the city hums with life around me, I smile, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for everything that's led me here. The struggles, the pain, the losses, they've shaped me, forged me into someone stronger, someone who knows their worth. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time, that uncertainty doesn't scare me. I'm ready to face it, to embrace whatever comes next, knowing that I have the strength, the resilience, and the courage to build a life that's truly mine. Because this is my story, and I'm just getting started.